Peace is an illusion. Kakarot is still training, and I won't make the mistake of falling behind. Earth was enjoying a time of peace. 5 years had passed since the 28th World Martial Arts Tournament. In all that time, no threat had arisen to trouble its inhabitants. It was a strange calm, as if the world had decided to forget what danger meant. At Kami's lookout, Piccolo sat motionless in meditation. The wind gently brushed against his cape, while he kept his eyes closed. The stillness of the earth kept him alert. "It's too quiet," he murmured, "and that is never a good sign." While peace reigned on Earth in a far corner of the universe, a disaster was beginning to brew. Toria, a remote world on the edges of the universe, was falling under shadows. Since ancient times, it had guarded a gateway to the white dimension, a sacred threshold protected by its guardian. That day, the dark omen was fulfilled. Gravek, the conqueror of worlds, stepped through that portal. He did not come alone. He was followed by a group of warriors who carried out his orders. His mere presence was enough to shatter the will of an entire people and extinguish all hope. Halira was no ordinary warrior. Not long ago, the guardian of Toria had chosen her, along with other disciples, to train in the white dimension, a space that tempered body and spirit. "Master," she fell to her knees beside him. "Roussel, Gavir, and Milana. I've lost them all." "I know," the guardian replied, his voice grave. "They are no longer themselves. That being's corruption has taken them." "What is that force? What is he looking for?" "He seeks control, power. He wants to subjugate the strongest and turn them against their own." The guardian looked at her gravely. "And you, Halira, are his next target." "Halira! There is no other choice. Cross the gate to the white dimension." "Run!" he shouted in a broken voice. "It can't be," she whispered to herself. "The white dimension? It's not just a chamber, it's a network of pathways between worlds." "Who are you?" Dende exclaimed, his voice tense. Halira took a deep breath and bowed with respect. "I am Halira. I come from the planet Toria. Please, I need your help." "How did you get up here undetected? Explain yourself." Halira began explaining how she had arrived there, speaking of the white dimension as a vast, interconnected ocean. Denda's surprise was palpable. The Hyperbolic Time Chamber, connected to other worlds? That's impossible. I thought that dimension was created only for training. We never ventured deep into that vast dimension. Losing your way in there would have been a death sentence. My world, Toria, no longer exists as I knew it. Our guardian was slain by a warrior named Gravek. He has corrupted my people with his strange ability. My friends, those I trained with, are now puppets of his malice. Dende was horrified. A guardian slain. Then your world is defenseless. Halira nodded, breathing with difficulty. And yours is too. I saw the flight logs in Gravek's ship. Earth is one of his objectives. The navigation system displayed a message beside the coordinates for this world. It said, "Forbidden, extremely powerful beings, final objective." Final objective? Dende repeated barely above a whisper. Tch, that means they will come sooner or later. It's not that they can't enter. They're just waiting for the right moment to do so. Who would have imagined the Hyperbolic Time Chamber hid so many secrets? Trunks murmured, fascinated. The Namekian, his arms crossed, spoke without looking away from the void. The purpose of this place was always to be a training space. No one in their right mind would have strayed from the door. Getting lost here meant death. Besides, there was no reason to suspect there was anything beyond it. But that clarity was not uniform. It came from a single point in the heart of that dimension, a distant incandescence suspended in the middle of the void. It was not a star, but a motionless glow that tinted the entire expanse white. Halira watched it, a chill running down her spine. That center, it looks like the origin of everything. Piccolo narrowed his eyes. Whatever it is, better not get too close. The group hid behind the ruined walls. What they saw turned Halira's blood cold. A group of Torian warriors, their gazes empty and rigid, were violently subduing other inhabitants. Master Gravik will lead us to a new dawn. The weak have no place in the new world. The faces of the prisoners reflected the horror of being attacked by their own people. "Wait! Did you see that?" Halira exclaimed, surprised. "When they're knocked out, the control is broken!" Suddenly, an imposing figure descended from the gray clouds. His dark aura spread like black flames that warped the air around him. Behind him floated a group of warriors, all radiating the same corrupt and unnatural ki. The liberated inhabitants recoiled, falling to their knees before the mere pressure of his ki. Even Trunks and Goten shuddered as a chill ran down their spines. His Gravik," Halira whispered, a tremor of rage tensing her voice. Gravik laughed with arrogance. "It is pointless. No matter how many you free, there will always be more. Your mercy will be your undoing. Every time you hesitate to attack, you will only grow weaker against me." Goten stepped forward defiantly. "Don't sweat it. I've got this." The air exploded as he lunged to attack. "How utterly predictable," the villain muttered. With a mere flick of his hand, an invisible wave enveloped Goten. The young Saiyan's face contorted as blue flashes appeared within his golden aura. What is this? My power! It's vanishing! He can suppress his opponent's ki! I call it arcane suppression, Gravik said coldly. While Goten's physical energy was being reduced by the suppression, Gravik extended his hand toward the young Scion's forehead and activated his other primary technique, mind control. A different pressure, cold and penetrating, closed around Goten's mind. Thus his body was left exhausted and his will under siege. "Wake up, you idiot!" he roared, his voice breaking. "Shut up!" Goten shouted, his face twisted into an arrogant smirk. "I don't want to wake up!" Piccolo descended upon him with fury, chaining devastating blows together. Gravik tried to respond, but every defense was slower than the previous one. The pressure was overwhelming him. Piccolo, taking advantage of his adversary's extreme exhaustion, unleashed a series of combined attacks. The Namekian left no room for recovery, overwhelming Gravik's defenses and forcing him to slip up. After a decisive blow, a wave of bright and pulsating energy extended from Gravik's body. The air itself seemed to vibrate, as if an electric charge had been released. Gravik's control over Goten shattered instantly. Goten collapsed, stunned, and his malevolent gaze vanished to give way to confusion. "Do you think everything ends with me? I am just the herald. The true master of darkness still remains in the shadows, and when he decides to move, your world will be the first to burn to ash." In his desperation, something snapped. A primitive instinct, forced by sheer stress, pushed his body beyond its limits. His entire frame began to thrum with an ominous power, a brute explosion of dark ki. Gravik's muscles swelled massively, his frame expanding with ferocious power. Veins bulged along his neck and temples, and his face twisted into a grotesque mask of agony. His eyes rolled back white, signaling the total loss of self and reason. The dark energy has fused perfectly with his anger. His power has overflowed. Let's see how this plays out. On Toria, the fusion dance was executed perfectly to everyone's astonishment. The blinding glare of the fusion cleared the clouds and revealed the entire coast. The sea crashed violently against the cliffs, and the city lay like a shattered chessboard beneath their feet. When the light dissipated, Gotenks emerged wrapped in a golden aura. Huh? What was that? It's Gotenks. Yes, but it is strange. They are in a distant sector of the universe, far from Earth. It's time I put an end to this. While Gravek tried to get up, Gotenks launched 3 galactic donuts. He spat blood. His life force began to fade. Barely a thread of ki pulsed inside him. On that threshold of death, his madness faded. He turned his head slowly, looking at Gotenks with empty yet clear eyes. What? What have I been doing? He whispered. I was the monster. I don't remember clearly, but the flashes, the devastation I caused, I turned them into weapons. I only sought vengeance for my people, and I became what I swore to destroy. He called himself Eldrin. I met him on planet Volium only a few months ago. He seemed weak, but he promised me power in exchange for serving him. He said he had been unjustly imprisoned in the White Dimension and that he freed himself 15 years ago. 15 years? Exactly when Boo was beaten. And when the rifts were torn in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. The White Dimension. Eldrin needed fear, dark energy. With every conquered planet, with every terrified soul, he grew stronger, recovering his ancient power little by little. You must stop them. It is the only way. And even so, I fear that what Eldrin plans surpasses everything we can imagine. So, Eldrin wasn't just watching us. He was studying us. He was waiting for his opportunity to deal the final blow. But for what purpose?